Never did I envision revealing this, yet life has a peculiar manner of thrusting us into the unforeseen. Elise is my name, and I find myself at the age of 44. For quite some time now, I have navigated the journey of motherhood on my own, raising my son without a partner by my side. Lenny, now 22, carries a name that resonates with stories yet to be told. Our bond has always been strong, just the two of us navigating the twists and turns of life together. On a night like no other, an unexpected event unfolded. Lenny appeared utterly fatigued and confessed that he was not feeling his best. He had toiled diligently and immersed himself in his studies, and he appeared utterly exhausted. I suggested he could recline on my bed for a bit if he felt the need to rest. The night air was crisp within our home, slow to embrace warmth, prompting me to drape a heavy blanket over him. Initially, it appeared to be an ordinary scene, a mother aiding her son. Yet, as I reclined beside him, I sensed him inching nearer. He was likely seeking warmth, and I didn't dwell on it much. Yet, he encircled me with his arms, drawing me near in the tender way he once did in his youth. Though taken aback, I chose to let it go. He likely sought solace. His warmth enveloped me, accompanied by the rhythm of his steady breathing. As we lay there, I sensed Lenny's breathing gradually ease, as if he were drifting into slumber. The silence enveloped the room, allowing the rhythmic thump of my heartbeat to echo in my ears. It was an odd sensation, yet it brought a sense of tranquility. I remained still, reluctant to intrude upon his moment, convincing myself it was merely a mother offering solace to her child. Yet, as time passed, he inched closer, nestling beneath the blanket beside me. His arm encircled me more firmly, and I found myself momentarily paralyzed, grappling with my thoughts. A fragment of my being yearned to speak, to retreat, yet another fragment remained motionless. A palpable tension hung in the air, an unshakable presence that I couldn't quite place, leaving me to ponder the source of my unease. Then an unexpected event unfolded before me. I sensed an unexpected firmness beneath the blanket, caught me off guard, and my heart began to pound in my chest. I endeavored to maintain my composure, to reassure myself that he was merely my child. Perhaps he was unaware of it within himself. I reclined, attempting to dismiss the emotions that began to swell within me. I reassured myself that it was merely a fleeting instance, an odd and uncomfortable pause that would soon fade away. Yet, as the minutes slipped away, it dawned on me that circumstances had shifted, leaving me uncertain about how to navigate this new reality. Lenny remained near, his breath calm, yet I sensed the warmth between us intensifying. I longed to shift, to utter something playful to ease the heaviness, yet the phrases eluded me. In that moment, I found myself ensnared, grappling with the uncertainty of my own emotions. Then Lenny adjusted his position, raising his head to meet my gaze. His eyes possessed a tenderness I had never encountered, a gaze that instilled in me a curious blend of comfort and unease. Though he remained silent, his eyes appeared to inquire whether all was well. I attempted a smile, wishing it might alleviate the peculiar sensation, yet it only intensified the weight of the silence around me. Lenny's hands lingered on my arm, warm and gentle, unwavering. His fingertips glided softly, as if lost in thought. Though it was a mere trifle, each touch ignited a fire within me that was impossible to overlook. I maintained a calm breath, striving to conceal the frantic beating of my heart from his gaze. Uncertain of my next move or words, I remained still, enveloped in the peculiar bond that seemed to tether us together. I reassured myself that this was merely a mother offering solace to her son. Nothing beyond that. Yet, in that stillness, with only the two of us cocooned beneath the blanket, my thoughts swirled relentlessly, tinged with a sense of wrongness that I couldn't seem to shake off. He was my son, yet as I lay there beside him, an inexplicable depth of connection enveloped me, a closeness that eluded my understanding. A blend of confusion and warmth enveloped me, an unforeseen sensation that rendered me motionless. Lenny appeared oblivious to my turmoil, remaining by my side, his hand gliding gently, a soothing presence, as though it were the most instinctive act imaginable. His breath came steady, his eyelids fluttered shut once more, and I found myself pondering whether he was drifting off into slumber. Yet, his hand began to shift, gliding gently up my arm. A shiver coursed through my being as he opened his eyes, locking his gaze onto mine. His gaze held a question, as though he sought reassurance about whether this was acceptable, whether I experienced the same peculiar attraction he did. I breathed his name softly, struggling to let the sound escape my lips. I yearned to halt this, to withdraw and establish some space, yet inexplicably, I found myself unable to budge. The tension between us was palpable, akin to a silent storm brewing in the stillness. Silence enveloped us, yet the atmosphere thrummed with the weight of unexpressed thoughts, emotions swirling just beyond the reach of our lips. Then, as if guided by an unseen force, he leaned in closer. My heart raced, a wild drumbeat in my chest, while thoughts swirled chaotically, yet I found myself unable to retreat. I found myself in a state of conflict, suspended between my duties as his mother and the unsettling emotions that had emerged. As he leaned in, my breath hitched, and all my thoughts dissolved, leaving just that singular moment suspended between us. Lenny's hand lay softly on my shoulder, his fingers lingering as though he too was caught in a moment of uncertainty. The world beyond seemed to fade away, leaving only the comforting warmth of his presence, the rhythmic pulse of his heart resonating in the silence. In that fleeting instant, I shut my eyes, seeking to find a semblance of tranquility within. I urged myself to retreat, to sever the intimacy that enveloped me in a haze of confusion and intensity. Yet, in that moment, I sensed his hand softly glide upward, tenderly sweeping a lock of hair aside from my face. It was a gesture so simple and filled with care, yet it stirred my heart in ways that eluded my understanding. I opened my eyes, and there he stood, gazing at me with an undeniable softness, a profound trust reflected in his expression. His face hovered near, allowing me to observe every minute detail, the delicate freckles, the soft arc of his lips, the way his eyes sought out my own. In his gaze I found a vulnerability that mirrored my own, revealing that he, too, was adrift in this moment just as I was. We lingered in that stillness, as though the very fabric of time had come to a halt. My thoughts swirled in a tempest of inquiries, uncertainty, and the incomprehensible. Yet my body remained still. In that moment, I was captivated by him, this individual I had nurtured, yet he seemed like a stranger entirely unfamiliar. Just when I believed we would remain ensnared in that silence for eternity, Lenny withdrew, gently shattering the spell. He averted his gaze, a hint of embarrassment flickering across his features, and released a nervous chuckle while running his fingers along the nape of his neck. It anchored me in the present, illuminating the depth of our connection and the richness of our shared experiences. In an instant, the burden of it all descended upon me. I inhaled deeply, attempting to anchor myself amidst the tidal wave of feelings that threatened to engulf me from all sides. I fervently wished that he remained oblivious to the storm of emotions swirling within me. "Apologies, Mother," he murmured, his tone gentle and wavering, a hint of doubt threading through his speech. "I never intended to create an awkward situation." He averted his gaze, and for a fleeting moment, I noticed the slightest flush tinting his cheeks, a hint that maybe he was wrestling with the same tumult of emotions I was trying to hold at bay. I stood there, paralyzed, yearning to offer him solace, to assure him that all was well, that this discomfort altered nothing in our connection. Yet the words eluded me. I stood there, paralyzed by the weight of the silence, and in that fleeting instant, it struck me with unsettling clarity that I had never felt more alienated from my own son. I extended my hand instinctively, allowing it to rest softly on his shoulder, wishing that this simple act might provide him with a measure of comfort. A subtle smile danced at the edges of my lips as I endeavored to alleviate the tension, yet I sensed my own anxiety weaving its way into my words. "Text, it's all right, Lenny," I murmured, my voice gentle and unwavering, striving to offer him comfort. "It seems, indeed, that it has been merely the two of us for quite a while now, hasn't it? We have acclimated to it, and now it seems somewhat peculiar. He nodded, a glimmer of relief dancing in his eyes, as if my words had resonated deeply within him. Just as the atmosphere appeared to soften, the doorbell chimed, fracturing the delicate tranquility we had only just started to cultivate. The piercing chime of the bell yanked us from our reverie, a stark reminder of the reality waiting just beyond that threshold. I rose abruptly, my heart pounding from the recent exchange, a peculiar sense of gratitude washing over me for the unexpected interruption. As I approached the door, I felt my pulse quicken, unable to dispel the peculiar energy that lingered from my conversation with Lenny. As I swung the door open, I was met by the sight of our neighbor Mark waiting on the other side. He wore a smile, his well-known visage providing an immediate wave of reassurance. Yet I sensed his gaze rested on me just a heartbeat longer than normal, as if probing for something hidden beneath the exterior. I composed myself swiftly, wishing that the residual tension from the earlier encounter would remain unnoticed by him. "Hey, Elise," Mark greeted, his voice imbued with warmth and an effortless charm. "I decided to stop by and see if you required any assistance. As the chill of the season settles in, I stand ready to assist with any heating concerns you may be facing." His thoughtfulness brought a soothing comfort, and I was unexpectedly enveloped by a surge of gratitude. In a brief instant, I permitted the warmth of Mark's presence to ease the lingering traces of my discomfort. "Oh, thank you, Mark," I said, offering him a smile that felt a touch more sincere now. The house indeed has a tendency to grow somewhat cold, particularly as night falls. Your assistance would be greatly valued. As Mark entered, his footsteps resonated with a calm certainty, and I could sense Lenny's gaze upon us without delay. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of his face, his expression elusive and difficult to decipher. Yet the intensity of his gaze upon us sent a shiver through my core. For a fleeting instant, I could have sworn I detected a glimmer of jealousy in his gaze, yet he swiftly concealed it, his expression reverting to its customary indifference. The expression took me by surprise, instilling an unsettling feeling that maybe Lenny was grappling with emotions far more intricate than I had understood. As Mark navigated the living room, inspecting the heater, he engaged in light conversation, inquiring about the happenings at home and how I was coping with everything. His voice carried a gentle quality, and his presence enveloped me in an unexpected warmth. Yet, throughout it all, my gaze continually returned to Lenny, who stood silently in the hallway, observing us with a profound intensity that infused the space between us with an unarticulated tension. The atmosphere in the room had quietly transformed, leaving me caught in a delicate balance between the desire to make Mark feel at home and the need to alleviate the growing unease I could perceive in Lenny. The atmosphere was charged, as if the two of them were subtly vying for my focus, leaving me uncertain about how to traverse the fragile ground that lay between us. I cast another look at Lenny, and for a brief moment, I caught a glimmer in his eyes, a hint that suggested he might be grappling with emotions he had yet to reveal to me. Yet, just as I began to grasp the situation, Mark glanced my way, his expression transforming into a comforting smile. "Everything appears to be in order, Elise," he remarked, his tone imbued with warmth. "Feel free to reach out if you require any further assistance." I expressed my gratitude, and as he exited, I sensed the tension between Lenny and me swell, saturating the atmosphere in a manner that rendered everything more intricate. I softly shut the door behind me and turned, only to discover Lenny standing motionless in the hallway, his arms firmly crossed over his chest. His expression was grave, his eyes unwavering, and the way he held himself conveyed that the tension between us was far from settled. "Is everything all right, Lenny?" I inquired, my tone gentle yet probing, attempting to comprehend the chasm that had unexpectedly arisen between us. I was compelled to understand the thoughts swirling in his mind, to unravel the mystery of why the distance between us appeared to expand with every fleeting second. He offered a slight, nearly indifferent shrug, his voice scarcely rising above a whisper as he responded, "Yeah, I'm fine. I simply didn't anticipate Mark's arrival, that's all." His words lingered in the atmosphere, yet they failed to illuminate the complexities swirling just beneath the surface. I felt compelled to connect, to inquire further, to grasp why this experience seemed so distinct. Yet, before I could articulate another inquiry, he pivoted and strode past me, making his way to his room without casting me a single glance. The stillness enveloping us was overwhelming, and the gentle sound of the door shutting behind him resonated like the concluding note of a symphony that had scarcely started to play. I lingered for a moment, anchored in place, engulfed by a peculiar blend of relief, bewilderment, and a disquieting feeling that something significant remained unspoken. As I stood before the shut door of Lenny's room, a profound weight settled in my chest, an ineffable sorrow that eluded expression. It felt as though a change had occurred between us, an unvoiced tension lingering in the atmosphere like a storm cloud poised to unleash its rain. My thoughts circled back to it all, the closeness we had shared moments before, the way his eyes held on just a bit longer when Mark was present, and that palpable tension that simmered just out of reach, poised to erupt at any moment. As I entered my room, I collapsed onto the edge of the bed, my mind swirling with the whirlwind of events that had just unfolded. I understood that I could not evade it indefinitely. Eventually, we would have to confront the shifting dynamics that were unfolding between us. Yet, I found myself at a loss, uncertain of how to embark on the journey of unraveling this intricate tapestry of feelings. As I drifted deeper into my reverie, a gentle knock at my door broke the silence. A jolt of anticipation surged through me, igniting a flicker of hope within my chest. Perhaps it was Lenny coming back to converse. "Enter," I beckoned, my tone more composed than my inner turmoil suggested. The door creaked open, revealing him in the doorway, his expression as enigmatic as ever, a familiar sight that stirred a mix of emotions within me. He entered the room and settled beside me on the bed, his hands neatly clasped in his lap, his eyes cast downwards. The silence lingered, dense and suffocating, as though the burden of all that remained unspoken was unbearable. The atmosphere was thick with tension, yet it carried an undeniable sense of purpose. At last, Lenny shattered the stillness, his voice scarcely rising above a murmur. "Mom," he started, his voice hesitant, as though he were selecting each word with great care. "I find myself in a state of uncertainty. I apologize if my earlier actions created an awkward situation. I simply—" He faltered, the words caught in his throat, his frustration evident as he grappled with the emotions that eluded his grasp. I extended my hand and rested it on his, providing a silent comfort, a soft squeeze that conveyed more than mere words ever could. "Lenny, it's all right," I said gently, my tone unwavering even as the doubts churned inside me. "Perhaps we find ourselves wandering in a haze of uncertainty at this moment. For what feels like an eternity, it has been merely the two of us, and at times the atmosphere becomes, complex as it may be, it's perfectly natural to experience confusion." He gazed slowly, his eyes lingering on his hands, a faraway expression clouding them. His gaze carried a heaviness, a profound emotion that stirred a deep ache within my heart. At last, after what felt like an endless span of time, he raised his gaze to connect with mine. His gaze brimmed with a myriad of emotions: uncertainty, frustration, longing, and an elusive feeling that danced just beyond my grasp. Yet it carried a distinct sensation. It transcended mere frustration or confusion. There lingered an undercurrent, something visceral and unarticulated. I found myself at a loss for words. I whispered his name, my voice barely audible, as if the very air might swallow the sound. He seemed caught in a web of fear, reluctant to acknowledge the truth, yet equally hesitant to face the tension that had been simmering between us. The fragility in his words struck me with an intensity one hadn't anticipated, and in that instant, I grasped the depth of its impact on him as well. The heaviness of my heart mirrored the bewilderment reflected in his gaze. In that fleeting instant, the desire to extend my arms and draw him near consumed me. I longed to envelop him in my embrace, to whisper that all would be well, to offer the comfort of knowing we could face this journey side by side. Yet, I found myself pausing, uncertain if that would genuinely provide assistance or merely entangle the situation further. The nature of his needs remained shrouded in ambiguity, leaving me uncertain whether my instinct to offer solace was indeed the appropriate response. Thus, I chose to stay motionless, letting the profound silence envelop us, conveying more than any words might express. I lingered in that moment, acutely aware of the heavy silence that enveloped us, poised for the perfect opportunity to shatter the quietude, yet uncertain of how to disrupt the calm. At long last, after what seemed an endless stretch of time, I inhaled deeply, grounding myself, and turned to confront him. I gazed into his eyes, probing for any hint of his emotions, any indication of what he might require from me. "Lenny, perhaps we should pause for a moment and truly reflect on everything," I murmured gently, searching for the perfect words, the delicate equilibrium between comfort and comprehension. It is perfectly natural to feel a sense of closeness, yet it is equally valid to seek solitude to untangle your thoughts. We need not have every detail resolved at this very instant. He nodded with deliberation, as though the gravity of my words was gradually taking hold. In a surprising gesture that took me by surprise, he rested his head on my shoulder. That gesture transported me instantly to a time when he was younger, a time when he frequently sought solace in that well-known manner. It enveloped me in warmth, a soothing embrace, yet there lingered an unmistakable difference this time. A palpable tension lingered just beneath the surface, an unspoken acknowledgement that the dynamics between us had shifted in ways we had yet to comprehend. As his warmth enveloped me, my heart melted instinctively. I found myself drawing him nearer, my arm encircling him in a gesture that radiated both protection and solace. It was a hug that promised security, despite my awareness that the unspoken questions hanging in the air remained unresolved. In that moment, amidst the weight of unspoken words and the swirl of emotions we had yet to fully confront, I came to understand that perhaps we didn't require all the answers just yet. We might navigate this journey gradually, unraveling it side by side, despite the ambiguity and complexity that lay before us. As we lingered in each other's embrace, a profound sense of tranquility enveloped me. A gentle, unvoiced hope hung in the atmosphere, suggesting that despite the challenges we confronted, regardless of how daunting the circumstances appeared, we could still navigate this journey side by side. We lingered in that moment, enveloped in silence, the intimacy shared between us providing a brief glimpse of tranquility. For a fleeting instant, it seemed that the chaos and intricacies of our predicament could vanish merely by our proximity to one another. Yet, I understood in the depths of my being that the situation was far more complex. The solace of his presence was unmistakable, yet beneath that warmth lingered a subtle tension, an emotion neither of us could entirely dispel. Eventually, Lenny drew back a bit, raising his head to lock eyes with me. His serious expression transformed, as the ease of the moment yielded to a profound intensity. "Mom, I find myself at a loss with all these emotions," he murmured, his voice tinged with doubt. "I wish to avoid complicating our relationship further, yet I find it impossible to overlook the situation at hand." His words hung in the atmosphere, heavy with unexpressed tension, akin to a question he lacked the bravery to articulate. The heaviness of his silence enveloped me, and I gulped, my thoughts spiraling in a chaotic dance as I desperately sought the perfect words to break the tension. I parted my lips to speak, yet before a word could escape, another knock echoed through the air, reverberating against the door. We both jumped at the noise, taken aback by the sudden interruption, our gazes meeting in a mix of surprise and uncertainty. The knock resonated with purpose, a calculated sound that suggested the individual beyond the door was acutely aware of the tension lingering in the air, eager to shatter the silence that enveloped us. A surge of anxious energy enveloped me, and before I could fully process it, I found myself rising and making my way to the door. As I opened the door, there stood Mark once more, his expression shadowed by worry, as if he had been grappling with a weighty thought. "Manus," he said, his voice tinged with authentic concern. "I apologize for intruding. I merely wished to inquire if all was well. I noticed you seemed a bit out of sorts earlier, and I wanted to check in to see if you're okay." For a fleeting instant, I paused, casting a quick look back at Lenny. He observed us intently, his face a mask of inscrutability, the air thick with unvoiced inquiries. I inhaled deeply, attempting to calm my voice, which quivered just a bit as I replied, "Thanks, Mark, but we're fine. Simply enjoying a serene evening." Mark cast a prolonged, probing glance in my direction before shifting his attention to Lenny. His gaze held on him, contemplative and searching, before shifting back to me. He nodded slowly, yet an air of uncertainty lingered about him, hinting that he wasn't entirely persuaded. "Everything is becoming gentler, isn't it?" He spoke, his voice taking on a gentler quality. "Keep in mind, I'm just next door if you require any assistance. Do not hold back." As he turned and departed, I gently closed the door with a soft click, leaning against it for a brief moment to collect my thoughts. I glanced back at Lenny, who remained rooted in place, his gaze fixed on me with a fervor that sent a shiver down my spine. His gaze felt as if it could penetrate my very being, probing for something elusive, perhaps the truth, or maybe a sense of reassurance. Following a lengthy silence, he rose, his motions measured and intentional, and I sensed my heart begin to race once more. The atmosphere surrounding us was dense, laden with unspoken words that lingered in the silence. He drew nearer, and I steeled myself for the words that were about to unfold. Yet, as he approached, he halted, his demeanor transforming as if he were engaged in a fierce internal conflict. Perhaps we ought to reconsider this, Mother," he murmured, his voice soft and quavering. "Merely a touch. Perhaps we require a moment for contemplation." His words crashed over me like a tidal wave, and I nodded, my own heart heavy with the same tumultuous emotions he must have been experiencing. I grasped the necessity for distance, for moments to unravel the complexities of it all. "You're right, Lenny," I replied softly, my voice heavy with the burden of all that remained unspoken. "We must reflect on all aspects thoroughly. This is not something we can hurry through." Lenny nodded in agreement, and we lingered in silence, our nearness a curious blend of intimacy and detachment, as if we teetered on the edge of an elusive moment that slipped through our fingers. It seemed to be an ending, yet simultaneously the dawn of something new, an undefined essence lingering in the air. As he ambled toward his room, I stood still, pondering the uncertain path that lay ahead for us and whether we might discover a way to move forward, whether together or apart. We appreciate your presence with us until the very end. As we approach our farewell, I encourage you to take a moment to click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Your support, no matter how modest it may appear, holds immense significance for us and inspires us to keep crafting heartfelt content. If you enjoyed what we shared today, please consider giving it a like. Every interaction contributes to our growth and enables us to keep sharing meaningful stories with you. I appreciate your presence in this community.